Could it be? But me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to Saturday Night Football Overtime. Houston Texans, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This was exactly what I kind of expected. I thought the Texans would play a little bit better. I thought the Buccaneers would play a little bit worse considering the circumstances. But all in all, I expected a close Texans win. It wasn't going to be pretty. It wasn't going to be anything that was going to move the needle for me one way or the other with this Texans team moving into the postseason, but it was going to be gritty and most importantly, a dub. Now, if you're a Buccaneers fan, this is the Jameis Winston dilemma right here. This is exactly why there are reservations about holding on to him. And then there's the other side of that coin where you say, but man, he's going to throw for well over 5,000 yards. He's going to throw for close to 40 touchdowns. It's hard. And really, at the end of the day, he's got a chance, realistically, because there's a chance Lamar Jackson doesn't play in the season finale. He could lead the league in passing touchdowns, interceptions, and passing yards. It's not inconceivable that happens, but this Buccaneers team is so talented if they could just get Jameis to cut down on the turnovers. The problem is I don't know if that ever happens. You've got the perfect head coach to kind of reel him in, allow him to be him, and also make the kind of mistakes that he's going to make, but also turn the page from those mistakes. But in the same breath, it's a roller coaster ride that you're tired of riding, but you don't really want to get off. And so I've said all along, there's no way you can allow Jameis Winston. There were so many reports before the game about him coming back next year on some kind of tag. I've already advocated for him coming back in some capacity. I would prefer the short-term deal, you know, the 3-year deal, and the Bucs can get out after a year, you know, maybe a 2-year deal, same thing, same principle applies, and the Bucs can get out after a year. There'll be an exit ramp in there somewhere where they can get out. But the franchise tag is so expensive. It's so pricey. It eats up so much of your cap. Whereas if you do a short-term deal with an exit ramp, there's going to be a way for you to get out. Now, there may be a little bit of a penalty, you know, getting out after a year. You may have to eat a little bit of dead cap, maybe, you know, $4, $5, $6 million, whatever. But I'd much rather have that security knowing that I could spread the deal out over multiple years and not have to eat up, you know, $25, $26 million of my cap on just 1 year. But look, me being scorned as a Redskins fan and seeing a team mismanage a quarterback heading to free agency with the franchise tag in consecutive years, I wouldn't wish that on anyone. And so if you can avoid the tag of a quarterback, by all means, please do. So they're going to tag him. Somehow, some way, something's going to happen with a tag. Most likely, it'll be a franchise tag. And he'll be a Buccaneer for at least one more year, and he'll have an audition. They've seen 5 years already of it in Tampa Bay, so they kind of already know what they have, which is why I wouldn't do the franchise tag. Because what if he, for 1 year, decides to clean up his act and throws 40 touchdown passes, because he's very capable of throwing 40 touchdown passes. If his receivers stay healthy and they ball out and he cuts down on the turnovers, and let's just say it's 40 over 13 next year. Well, you're like, hell, I'm signing up for that, because maybe all of a sudden now your defense is better and you're 10-6 and you win a wild card berth next year. Well, that's enough to get Jameis on a 5-year deal. And then what if he reverts back to regular Jameis after that? Which is why I just say the short-term deal makes more sense for me. But anyway, let's get to the team that won this game anyhow. The Houston Texans. They're now 10-5. They've clinched the AFC South division with this victory. Congratulations to the Houston Texans for winning the AFC South yet again. I don't know how they continue to do this every single year with Bill O'Brien as the head coach. You know I'm not a huge Bill O'Brien fan, but They find ways to get it done. It's not the most impressive division in football, but it's competitive year in and year out. And they find ways to get it done year in and year out. And for what? How many years in a row now is it that this Texans team makes it to the postseason? This has got to be at least 3 years in a row. Has Deshaun Watson been in this league a year without making the postseason outside of his rookie season where he tore his ACL? I don't think there's been a year outside of that rookie campaign where he hasn't had his team in the postseason in some capacity, whether it be wild card or a division winner. And as a matter of fact, I don't recall the Texans being on the road at any point in a playoff game in Watson's career. I'm trying to think and recollect, because I know that in there somewhere has to be an Andrew Luck Colts, division winning season. And I don't know if the Texans made the postseason in that same year as well. I'm trying to think. I know last year they got just smashed at home by those same Indianapolis Colts, but that was a division winning season for the Houston Texans. I don't think that's the only one Watson's had in his career. I would like to say that the year before, I don't think that was Watson, though, the year that they beat the Oakland Raiders, when they had just a horrible quarterback situation. And I want to say Connor Cook had to start that playoff game because of the injury to Derek Carr. That sounds like it's too far back for Watson. So let's just say that this is the second year in a row Watson has won the division and gotten his team to the postseason. And it's an incredible feat. Again, considering the circumstances, to me, this team is not the same without Will Fuller. I've said it a million times. When he's healthy, it just changes the whole dynamics of this football team offensively, because there's not just one guy you got to cover. And really, I love Kenny Stills and what he brings to this offense. So it's not just two guys you have to cover. Now it's three guys that you have to cover. And more importantly, Will Fuller scares you just as much as D-Hop does. When he's on the field, maybe even more so, because D-Hop isn't running by anybody, most likely. Whereas you get a guy like Will Fuller, the fifth, and he gets going. There aren't many corners that can keep up with him in this league. Their offense is just so much more dynamic and explosive with him in the lineup, and it just changes how you have to defend them. When he's not healthy, and it doesn't look like he's going to be healthy, despite getting that 1 week off that he's going to get next week, it's a groin, folks. And with him, it's either a groin, it's either a hamstring, it's an ankle. It's always something with him. He probably won't be ready to go in wild card weekend. If he is, he won't be 100%. He wasn't 100% in this game. Probably why he hurt the groin, because he was overcompensating for a hamstring that wasn't healthy. So it's going to be tough moving forward for them. I don't like this team. I didn't like this team before the season started. They've won some games that I didn't expect them to win. They've lost some games that I didn't expect them to lose. They've been uneven down the stretch of the season. But all that being said, they still have gotten it done to the point now where they're AFC South champions. And as I've said many a times, and I'll continue to say, all you got to do is get to the show. Once they shut the door and you got that ticket to the dance, anybody's got a chance. And this Texans team will have a shot. I think it's a long one, but they've got a shot. And at 10-5, they've done enough to clinch. They can rest some players next week at home versus Tennessee. They won't need it now. I hate that for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But, again, if you're the Steelers, just win. That's all you have to do. Just win, and everything will take care of itself. Don't rely on anybody else to do any dirty work for you. Just win. Beat the Jets in Week 16 on the road. Beat the Ravens on the road in Week 17. And again, the Ravens may not have anything to play for, so it may be even on both sides. But at the end of the day, the Texans, they got it done. They get a chance to rest their starters in Week 17. They will be hosting a playoff game. Most likely, they'll be hosting the fifth-seeded team in the AFC Conference, which is probably going to be the Buffalo Bills. And if that is, in fact, the case, I could see them exiting the playoffs in the first week of the postseason. We will see, though. This is a scary Texas team. May get J.J. Watt back. And this was not a great game by Carlos Hyde, who has rushed for 1,000 yards for the first time in his career. I love Carlos Hyde, and I couldn't quite put my finger on why he hasn't been able to find a home. Looks like he's found one. He's a great fit for this football team. They didn't run it as well today, but go figure, they were facing the number one rush defense in all of football, and you saw why with those big behemoths up front and Vita Vea and William Golston and Ndamukong Suh. They have a formidable front, and so it's just tough to run on those guys, and you saw that today. So I wasn't surprised that they weren't able to run the football. They're at best when they run it with Hyde and go play action fake and are able to drive the football down the field. There weren't any of those opportunities, and I thought Watson was off today. There were some opportunities for some easy completions, and outside of that first drive of the third quarter, where they moved it down the field and still didn't get in the end zone, I thought he looked out of sync the entire game. Outside of that one drive, I didn't think he looked sharp. And even on that drive, he had a wide open Duke Johnson for a walk-in touchdown. And granted, it was him checking down to his back, who at the beginning of the play was in protection, who leaked out at the very last second. He found him at the last second as he's getting hit. It wasn't an accurate throw. I get all of that, but somehow you got to make that throw and let him get into the end zone. That would have been a walk-in touchdown, but he just wasn't himself today. He wasn't, and you can credit the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense if you like. I just thought he was off. You know, you blame the ankle injury, but he didn't have that at the beginning of the game when he was still off. So I just didn't think it was a sharp game for Watson, but these are the types of games you got to find a way to win when you want to win your division. And again, wasn't pretty, but it was gritty and it was a dub, and the Texans get it done. They forced 5 turnovers in this game, and they find a way to win 23-20. Let's read some comments before we get out of here. Gregory Lightbody says, a fan tried to tell me Dwayne Haskins is the next Jameis Winston. I would hope not. Winston is talented. Don't get me wrong. All right. But the amount of interceptions he throws, it's ridiculous. I mean, this guy could throw 30 picks this year. He's on pace to throw over 30 picks. That's insane. I mean, you're talking about if he gets to 32 picks this year, which will set an NFL record for one season, if he hasn't already done that right now. But if he gets to 32, that means he's averaging 2 picks a game. Who does that? No way. Reese says, I'm pissed, Lou. Snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. It's what the Buccaneers have done all season long. When you look at this Buccaneers team, think about this season for them. They could be 10-5 right now. They probably should be 10-5. They could easily be 11-4. Think about some of the losses this season. At Seattle, that was a game that if the defense wasn't throwing up all over itself, they win that football game. When you go to Seattle and you play the way that they played in that game, they should have won that football game. Think about the Giants game early in the season when they let a rookie in Daniel Jones carve them up in the later stages of that football game, including a touchdown game-winning run to seal it for the Giants. And then you miss a walk-off chip shot field goal in that football game. Think about that game for a second. You look at this game. You throw 4 interceptions, you fumble again, 5 turnovers in a game you lose by 3 points. Think about that. Like, that's 3 games right there that the Buccaneers probably should have won. And you're talking about a 10-5 team now that's probably going to make it to the postseason instead of a 7-8 team that's scary as hell, but not going anywhere but home after next week's game. Reese says the officiating was trash. These damn referees couldn't see an elephant in a phone booth. The officiating wasn't great, but that's not the reason you lost the football game. But you're right, the officiating. But a lot of teams could say that. We could say that about a lot of officiating in a lot of these games. It hasn't been good this season. But that being said, the Buccaneers on the field lost this game themselves. And you know that, and you've watched them do this all season long, so it's not a surprise to you as a Buccaneers fan. Atlas says, I know it didn't look like it today, but I really believe in this Bucs team, and I think we can run this back with a vengeance next year. You don't have to preach to me and get me to believe. I understand what this Buccaneers team is. I totally get what they're capable of. I told anybody that would listen when the hire of Bruce Arians was made that this team was going to start winning some football games and they were going to be hell to deal with. I just felt like it wasn't going to be but for a limited time. And that's why I said, get as much of you can out of him as possible because his health has always limited his ability on the sidelines. And I don't know how many more games. You saw him going nuts on the sidelines when a couple calls didn't go his way, including that fumble. by the tight end out in the flats that should have been a fumble. You saw him going nuts and ballistic. He didn't have but so much of that in him. And so I'm hoping that he can stay healthy and avoid the health concerns, because you've seen the mistakes and the turnovers by Jameis, and they're still in ball games. That's Bruce Arians. That's Byron Leftwich. It's a product of the coaching staff. It's a damn good coaching staff. This Buccaneers team, if healthy, and that's been a problem down the stretch, and they've still been winning games, they're going to be dangerous. So I'm with you. If you run it back with Jameis and all the surrounding cast members, this could be a dangerous team come next year. We've said that before with this team before as well, though. Now, I haven't bought in. There's years where the Bucs go 9-7, and the next year Bucs fans are expecting big things. And I told you guys, it's a regression season. You're going back to 7-9. Bucs fans didn't want to hear it. Then when they went 7-9 the next year, they're like, damn, you were right. I don't know if that's the case next year with Bruce Arians. I think it's totally different. I think this team is fully capable if everything returns as is and guys stay healthy next year. This could be a dangerous Bucs team. David the Real Thomas says, the Texans are stupid. They don't even have a GM. They said no on Caserio from New England. Look, it's so many moving parts. I can't fault them for all of the things that have transpired. They won the division. I apologized already on my podcast because I'm not a Bill O'Brien fan. I thought a lot of the things that they did earlier in the season were foolish. And now they've all but pretty much panned out. Everything worked short term, maybe long term. These things don't pay off for them, giving away draft picks and things of that nature. But in the short term, they got the intended result, which was a divisional crown. That's the first goal of every team when you start the season off is, hey, let's win our division. That guarantees you a postseason game. It also guarantees you a home postseason game. So that's the first goal of every team. You want to win the Super Bowl, but before you can hit that goal, the first goal is win your division. They did that. They're going to get a home playoff game. Let's see what they do with it. So as foolish as the Texans may end up being in the long run, short-term wise, it's working out for them. Derek B says, I'm still in the first half on the DVR. Looks like Jameis is about to be the first member of the 30-30 club with one game to spare. If you're on the first half, I don't want to. It's too late. Spoiler alert for you. Jameis is going to hit 30 if he hasn't already hit 30 already. I think he came into the game with 26, so he might be at 30 now. As a matter of fact. Anyway, let's see. Atlas says, this is a learning year for the Bucs. We took one look at the schedule with the new system, and we knew it was going to be tough back next year to do damage. I've been really impressed with them. You know, I didn't expect them to be this good, to be honest with you. When they were 3-7 at one point before they got on this 4-game winning streak that was snapped today, I said, that's about right. That's about where I thought they would be with the amount of mistakes that they've made this season. But the wins were so impressive. And then they get on this streak, and it kind of balances out what was a really impressive season. It really did, because that win against the Rams, when the Rams, I think, were still undefeated at the time, and no one knew the Rams were going to have a down year. That was a massive win on the road. You know what I mean? The game out in Seattle was a surprise. You know, maybe it shouldn't have been after what they did to the Rams, but that was a shock. Even though they didn't win that game, they should have won that game. This is a Buccaneers team that went toe-to-toe with a lot of good teams this season, and they're dangerous. They got a chance to be dangerous for sure. Gregory Lightbody says, if Haskins is in his 5th year throwing 28 picks, I'm going to be on suicide watch. No, there's no need for that. If Haskins, with the lack of patience at the quarterback position in today's NFL, if Haskins plays like Jameis Winston after 2 years, he's probably going to be on the outs. Because even though Winston had like back-to-back 4,000-yard seasons in his first 2 years, I think there were still a bunch of interceptions and a lot of losses that came with that. I don't think Dwayne Haskins gets that kind of leeway in Washington. They already want to kick the man out of Washington, and he's only had about a handful of starts, maybe 4 starts at this point of his career, which is ridiculous. So I don't think there's any way he's able to get to his 5th year playing the way that Jameis has. Reese says, no more making America great again. He's impeached. Yeah, that drop was so disappointing. That was epically bad. Like that one, that one was rough and tough to stomach. For all the all the mistakes that were made throughout the course of the game, the blocked field goal, the fumble by not Ronald Jones, the other back. Can't think of his name right now. Peyton Barber, and the 3 interceptions by Winston. That drop by Brait, and it ended up being 4 by the end of the game. But that drop by Brait was just brutal. It was just a gut punch, because if he catches that, you're probably going to end up in Matt Gay field goal range. And as you can see, the guy can kick the shit out of the football. So you're going to have a shot to, at worst, tie this game up. But with Jameis Winston under center in these types of situations, I bet on Jameis. He probably ends up throwing a touchdown pass like he did against Indianapolis, and you probably end up winning this game, to be honest with you. And I said midway through the third quarter, I said, the Bucs are going to win this game. This is crazy. The Texans should be ashamed of themselves. All of the opportunities that they gave them to run them out of their own building, and yet they're going to find a way to cough this thing up. And Jameis and Cameron Brate and the rest of the guys just wouldn't allow it today. Could you imagine if they would have had just one of their 1,000-yard receivers in this game and not Bashad Perriman? And not to say that he was bad. He had over 100 yards receiving on 7 grabs. But just imagine if they had one of those guys, Evans or Godwin. Oh, my goodness. They win this game, probably going away. Ridiculous. Anyway, that's going to do it for your man Louie T here on Saturday Night Football Overtime. Bucs fall to 7-8, have their 4-game win streak snapped, but more importantly, the Houston Texans win their 10th game of the season and clinch their 2nd consecutive AFC South divisional crown with a 23-20 victory over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And it wasn't pretty, as I mentioned at the top, but it was gritty. Most importantly, it was a dub, and now they can rest some starters and really heal up for what is probably going to be a 4 versus 5 matchup versus the Buffalo Bills, a team that is extremely dangerous, that we'll get a look at right now, as a matter of fact, as they're going to be taking on the New England Patriots on the road in the second portion of this triple header on Saturday. Should be a ton of fun. We'll be back to break that one down when it meets its conclusion. But until then, I'm your man Louie T, signing off. Remember, if it's not your man T, it's not the best NFL coverage it could be. We're here all day long breaking down all of the action. Texans don't get it done, but you can also smash that like button and make sure you subscribe to the Louie T Network while you're at it if you haven't already done so. I'll see you guys later. Enjoy the second game of this triple header. Bills at Patriots, AFC East on the line. Patriots win, they clinch the division. Patriots lose, they got to win next week in order to keep the Buffalo Bills from having a shot at winning that division. Should be interesting and compelling football. I'll see you when it's done. You guys have a good one. Enjoy the game. We'll chop it up later when that one's done. Louie T.